All right. Hello, everybody. This is Arthur Petropoulos, Hillview Partners, and welcome back. Today, we are joined by Boris Nusinov. He's a Senior Vice President for Corporate Banking Leverage Finance at Rockland Trust. And we wanted to continue. We had really great interviews previously with private equity firm, with a search fund, a more independent bootstrapped acquirer. And as we continue to do more of these interviews, the goal is to kind of keep rounding out the ecosystem of participants in the middle market, lower middle market, both from the M&A and capital perspective. And what better way once in a while to have me ranting less and more of other people's thoughts, perspective, experiences. And so I wanted to continue that today. For anyone that doesn't know, I'm Arthur Petropoulos, managing partner here at Hillview Partners. We're a middle market, lower middle market, investment banking, M&A, capital advisory firm, helping companies typically generating 1 million to 10 million in EBITDA to sell their businesses, to find capital. And so welcome to Boris, and who is willing and friendly enough to subject himself to 45 minutes of my obnoxious questions. So, Boris, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate
I'm
it.
glad to be here. So I'm a big fan, Arthur, right? I follow your videos on LinkedIn. I'm pretty psyched to be part of them for this event.
I
Looking
appreciate
forward
that.
to
Yeah,
it.
so for eternity, you will now be part of the collective, which is a good thing here. So I appreciate it.
Exactly, exactly. And immortality is here.
That's it. Well, Boris, for anyone that doesn't know, and obviously we'll put a link to your profile in the description of this as well, but give a quick intro of yourself. That'd be super helpful.
Yeah. So we are the corporate banking team for Rockland Trust. Myself and my team, we partner with companies generally with revenues between 20 million and 300 million, mostly local companies, New England based. We'll go a little bit further if necessary. But in addition, we also partner with private equity firms, local firms in the New England area, and will oftentimes supply financings for their assets, within New England or not. So we're sort of a jack of all trades team, and provide financing, treasury management, FX, the plethora of commercial banking products. And as well as I mentioned earlier, we understand the M&A landscape and can talk to both private equity firms and family-owned businesses. And I think it's natural to partner with investment banks to provide the end client with the best service we can provide.
I appreciate that. What's interesting that we're seeing a lot with commercial banks, because we work with a lot of banks like yourselves, obviously, kind of not the call it giant glacier-like banks, and not the hyper small banks that don't necessarily sometimes have the call it the level of sophistications or nimbleness to get into some of the more nuanced stuff that we work in. So we love kind of the larger regional organizations that have the capital to do stuff, but also kind of the sophistication to get into different, more idiosyncratic or situational opportunities. But what's been neat about the last couple of years is I do think since kind of the great financial crisis, the recession of '08 until a couple of years back, it was like every bank was doing accounts in real estate, and that was it. And it felt like the corporate lending, if you will, particularly in the middle market, lower middle market, was kind of not really a primary consideration. But over the last few years, what's been nice to see from our interaction has been that's been more of kind of the focus of like trying to build out the old kind of C&I portfolios of these different banks. Is that how it's been at Rockland as well, and how you guys are kind of seeing the world?
Yeah. So truthfully, it's going to be a year for me at Rockland on November 27th. People who see my LinkedIn profile will see my prior experiences, which I won't list here. But yeah, absolutely. I think when the rates started going up and then the work from home environment, you put those two together, and the real estate assets, while still lucrative, needed to be sort of buttressed by C&I assets, right? And partnering with companies on operations like working capital design and credit term loans for capital expenditures or even acquisitions provides the bank an additional lever to really make a difference. To your point, when banks do real estate loans, they feel a little bit safer because it's a
Sure.
physical building. You're well secured, you believe, right? But now, again, with the world changing a little bit, it makes sense to diversify a bank's portfolio. So corporate banking's been given sort of the green light to sort of go in there and make sure that we balance the balance sheet of the bank accordingly.
Sure, sure. Makes good sense. And from your kind of, genesis of your career up to this point, so how did you kind of find your way into the corporate side of lending? Was that where you had started, or did you kind of work in that direction?
Yeah, so I started back in the dot com days working at GE Capital, and sort of went to the banking side and the portfolio management side initially. And I really wanted to go on the risk management side, but I thought the best way to be the best risk manager would be to go on the lending side and really meet face to face with CEOs, CFOs, private equity firms, iBankers, and understand both the excitement, but also the difficulty that exists when you're in a competitive environment, try to partner with companies, especially in Massachusetts, where, while we have a lot of business, it's very small and there people know one another. And ever since I landed in that role, I really enjoyed it and been there ever since. And it's interesting how your career path will do that. You have a certain goal, like a chess player, you're thinking 5 moves ahead. By move 3, you sort of pivot. And I've pivoted into the corporate lending. And I really, we don't make anything, Arthur, right, at the bank. We provide finance and we provide banking products. But it's great to meet companies that actually do provide a great service, a great product, that are innovative. And you meet CEOs, sometimes family run this second generation, sometimes first, who've taken risks to grow that business. They want to partner with you to help them grow it further. And that to me is exciting and rewarding.
Hey, that's awesome. How do you guys kind of look at the product service, the offering of a business and say, this seems good, or you know what, I don't know if this is going to be a fit for us?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? And seems to be more of an art than a science now, right? There's so many disparate businesses that run so differently. So a manufacturer, we will look at different than a distributor, than a services company. If there's a private equity firm involved, we will look at it even more differently, right? But the religion generally is EBITDA and cash flow, right? You want to see what the company does. You want to see what the margins are. But at the end of the day, you want to see what are they earning and what are they asking, right?
True.
So you may have a company that is growing, but growth has its challenges, and growth needs capital. So a line of credit is needed, or maybe a bigger one. You may have a company that needs to buy new machine equipment because they just want a new contract, or you may have a company that's looking to be acquisitive, right? They're generating pretty strong cash flow, and they want to either expand geographically or maybe expand its product suite. And sometimes buying another business is the more lucrative way. So I wish I could give you a roadmap, but that's what sort of separates the bankers, right, in this region. Is can you look at a situation? Can you decipher what is happening here? Can you provide the best partnership for that business? I believe we at Rockland do that really well. There are other banks that do it well also. Other banks do it less well. And that's what makes it so fun, right?
Do you guys dig into kind of the processes of the business, whether it's the sales, the execution, the supporting operations of the business, or how much do you tend to kind of dig in the weeds on some of those elements of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give up some of the secret sauce that we use. But I think a really important question to ask, whether you're a manufacturer, distributor, or a services company, or even a private equity firm in the iBank, well, who's your target customer? Who are you trying to target, right?
Sure.
Once you get that answer, how are you attacking that target right? To garner that, right? If you're selling sneakers, right? Are you selling to athletes? Are you selling to older people? Are you selling to the medical community? Stuff like that, right? And then how customer centric are you to make sure that process goes through? Even if you're a restaurant, who's your target? Is it a family? Is it more affordable? Is it more higher expenses, right? Well, all that is very important to have.
When you kind of meet a new group of people via the construct of a company looking for capital, how do you kind of get a read on that and to say, yeah, this seems like a good fit, or maybe not?
Yeah, so a lot of it is going to be the questions you ask. Have you done this before? Have you survived? So when you have longevity in the company, one of the, I guess, comfort levels you take is they've survived prior economic swings, upswing, downswing, and how they've handled that, right? When you have a younger company, you ask that question. And one of the questions I like to ask is, it's similar to your household even, right? If things get a little bit tight, can you reduce the cable bill? Can you cancel a gym membership? Can you live with one fewer car? So with a company,
Sure.
What can you do to reduce expenses, right? If you have to, right? Every so briefly. What are fixed? What are variable? And have you thought about that? And they'll tell you right if they haven't thought about it and they sort of pause, you sort of know they have not. But if
Sure.
they tell you, yeah, of course, right? We have a base case, we have a stress case that we run, and these are the levers we can pull. I think that sort of gives you some comfort that this management team understands their business.
No, I appreciate that. And it is a differentiator. And we say the same thing with people too. It's a, have you taken a beating before and survived? And,
Yeah.
and how willing are you to do the stuff that's necessary, right? What was it, the old Marvin Hagler quote? It's hard to go out and do concrete work if you're sleeping in silk pajamas every night. So it's like it's a constant
Yeah.
evaluation of a lot of the same forces. So I appreciate that. So here's two quick questions.
Yeah.
What's something that you see within a company that kind of quickly say is kind of a quick green light to you, something where it's like, ooh, I think we've got something here. I think this could be something we really want to sink our teeth into.
Yeah. And again, a lot of it comes with art and experience.
Sure.
When the company comes to you and they have a certain need, and you're like, this is a need the company likely has, and they match, you're like, wow, okay. They're looking for X. You believe they should have X. Right away, that's a match.
Sure.
It's a little more interesting is when they ask for X, but you believe they should have X and Y, maybe, right? Or X, Y, and Z, or maybe X is not what you want to have. That's when the conversations get interesting because I don't always have all the answers, right? But I'll have the questions that I know I should be asking, and it can be a learning experience on both ends. I think providing capital, a lender has a certain responsibility because you're giving a company levels of debt and you put covenants around them.
Sure.
And these covenants are set up not as punishment, they're set up that if something is going not as planned, we meet again. And sometimes things are good, right? The company's doing great. They're going to buy this great piece of machinery. They have so much cash. They buy it, but the capital expenditure is so high that a ratio is thrown off. But it's in a good way, right? So you meet ahead of time, you discuss it, like, wow, that's great. So I think that's the part that, again, I keep going back to this. It's the art, and that's what separates uh, bankers from other bankers. Will you ask that question? Will you structure it in a more productive way? It being the debt facilities.
Agreed. And I think that's the challenge. And that's why, like, there are certain banks out there that we are always kind of shifting clients. The clients come to us and say, hey, this bank has $1 trillion, but
Yeah.
they're not the right fit for us in terms of having those dialogues, because that's what people really want. At the end of the day, in almost every business, they want someone they can pick up the phone and chat with when they have an issue or something to tackle or an idea. And it goes back to the partnership thesis. So, like, if I told you how many clients, we work with that say, Wells Fargo has all the money in the world, Citibank has all the money in the world, but our company doing 30 million of revenue and 5 million of EBITDA is just not slotted for that. And we therefore need someone that we can have those dialogues. All right, the flip side of that question, then we'll make this the last question for this first part of the chat here, is what makes you walk away from a situation quickly? If you walked in a room and someone said, hi, we need a loan, and
Yeah.
they said X, what makes you say, oh, I don't know about this one?
Yeah. There are some companies and or operators that are asking us to take equity risk as a debt provider.
Sure.
And if I see that happen, I will politely just walk away, uh, only because finance professionals understand the return a bank gets is maybe a little bit of a fee and interest, and we get some deposits. A good partnership. It's a long-term return, right? We are a publicly traded, profitable business as well, right? But if you ask me to take a real leap to where if you're successful, yeah, your enterprise value may triple and you'll do great, right? Or maybe go up 10 times, but I'm still getting the same return.
Sure.
So I would want a safer return than that, right? That's where now I will tell them, like, this is, I appreciate what you're doing. You might be better off with a debt fund, right? Somebody that will take a little bit more risk.
Sure.
I think that's the only time I'll really quickly be like, yeah, probably not for us.
All right, awesome. Well, look, appreciate this, Boris. We're gonna wrap up there for the first part of this chat, and then for everyone who stuck around, stick around till the end of the week, and we'll have part two of this discussion, and we'll dig into a few more topics here. So appreciate the time, Boris.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Arthur. Good to see you.
You too.